Another thing that you can do to make your book covers more exciting is add a photographic element either to the whole document or to just some of the document. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use a picture for the entire background of your document. And this is something that you should really consult your thumbnail and make sure that the picture that you want actually fits a general design idea rather than just being something interesting. I don't actually have, this wasn't one of my thumbnails, but just for the sake of this video, I'm going to show you how to put a picture behind one of my Sherlock Holmes covers. So I'm going to go to Google Images. The first thought that I had was to use the home that Sherlock lives in, 22 Baker Street, because it's pretty iconic. But I didn't really like any of the pictures that I found. So I'm kind of gonna just change directions and crib this idea of using the cobblestones. So I'm going to just Google cobblestones, cobblestone street, and see what I come up with. These are all pretty cool. Something that you can also do to make sure that your pictures are going to be big enough is by going to tools and then just hitting large, so that way it filters out so you only get large images. I think that this is probably one that will work the best for my idea. So I'm going to, and it looks like it's probably pretty big, and I'm going to copy this image, and rather than pasting it into InDesign, I'm going to paste it into Photoshop. And that's because this image is totally the wrong color for my design. So I'm going to have to edit the colors in Photoshop. So I'm making my document 6:9. I want the resolution to be 300, and then I can hit create. So I have my document size. Now I hit Command or Control V to paste in my picture. It's not the right size. That's not a problem. I'm going to change the size of this, and I'm going to do that by hitting Command or Control T. That gets us free transform, and now I can just drag this picture until it hits the right size. Notice we're definitely cropping some stuff out. That doesn't bother me. It actually is going to work out pretty well because it means that now I don't have to include that manhole, which I don't want, and now I have this cobblestone picture, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. When we look in layers, we have layer 1. I want to change this picture to be black and white, and I'm also going to show you how you can change it so that way eventually you can add your monochromatic color scheme to it. The first thing we need to do is change the color to black and white, and I'm going to do this in a non-destructive way by adding an adjustment layer. You can add an adjustment layer by, and I'm going to just show you the difference. So if you want, you can always edit your image by going to adjustments, and this will adjust your picture. So I can take the saturation out of the picture, or I can change the lightness and darkness. This would be the value. And I can also use the sliders to change the colors. But the problem with doing this is, even though I have something that I actually quite like, if I hit OK, I can't go back and undo this if I ever want to make any changes. So that's not ideal. I'm going to hit undo, that's Command or Control Z, and instead I'm going to use an adjustment layer to do the same type of adjustment, but just editable. Now I'm not going to do a use saturation layer, even though that's something I could do. Instead I'm going to use a black and white adjustment layer, and this just turns the document black and white. I can change how the colors are affecting black and white. Now I want like right now I'm making the reds blacker and the yellows lighter. I actually want this to be pretty dark because Sherlock Holmes is dark and moody. And I can also, this is what's really cool, I can change the tint. And so what was black and white before is now yellow. And what I can do here is add in my hex code of my color. That hex code is 4A06, nope, not 6, D, 3D, and now I have the exact purple that I wanted. Great. I think that we could also probably, I want to try doing something else to make this even darker and a little bit moodier. We can also do something called a gradient map. And gradient maps are cool because they let you change what the darks and the lights show up as. So I'm going to put in my 0D, 3D. That's not right. There we go. And I can make this, I think I want to, let's hit OK. I want to make this not black, I want to make it kind of gray. And I'm actually going, and now I'm going to hit OK. That's looking pretty good to me. And I can turn this off, and now we see what it looks like. I'm actually going to go into my adjustment layer, my black and white, and just actually make it black and white instead of tinting it, even though that's really cool. The way that you can get back into adjusting your adjustment layer is by double-clicking on the adjustment. And I'm actually just going to make this black again. What I'm going to do is hit the check mark to the tint. Now I can use this to kind of make it a little bit moodier. Maximum black. There we go. And now I can keep going to make it custom. Anyway, once I have the picture at a way that I like it, I'm going to turn that gradient map off because we're not ready to use color yet. I'm going to hit save. So I'm going to save this file. I'm going to save it as cobblestone. I'm not sure if that's how it's spelled, but it's okay because it's not really going anywhere. And I'm saving it in my book cover folder. You can just save it to your desktop if that's easier to find. Now I go back to InDesign and I place this document, this Photoshop file. So I go to File, Place, or I can do Command D. I'm really pretty confident that I spelled that wrong. And now I have this file and it's covering my entire page, which is exactly what I wanted. I think that it's a little bit too dark to be for my text to really be visible on top of. So I'm going to take the opacity of this picture down. We can even do that kind of thing in Photoshop. And I just want to show you one of the coolest things about this is because this is linked in Photos in InDesign. Right here, we can see that. So because this is linked, I can go to Photoshop, and now let's turn this back on. And if I hit save, so that's Command or Control S, and I update this link, it just gets updated right away in InDesign, and that's so convenient. Okay, but let's actually just turn this off for a minute and hit save again. And now go back to InDesign. Okay. Now what we're going to need to do, and I'm going to actually drag this down to be on layer 1, and then I'm going to lock this so that way I can add text. The type that I'd been using, it's not going to show up on top of this cobblestone because this is so busy, and my text had a lot of lights, like very thin spots on it. Sherlock Holmes. So I'm just going to show you what I mean. Let's type in lust. And even if I make this really big, let's make it 72. It's obviously a very big size. So this is big, and it kind of reads, but it's still pretty tricky. So instead of using this font, I just went to try finding a different one, and I found these other ones that I think could work. Let's try this one. There we go. I do think that that works better. And maybe actually having it in white would make it read better. There we go, Sherlock Holmes. And maybe we can try utilizing a skill that we learned in another video. I'm going to duplicate this and make this one black. And then layer these on top. This one on top, and that makes it a little easier to read, I think. Let's see what happens if we take the opacity of this. I have to unlock it. I'm going to take the opacity of this back up. There we go. And now it's still nice and moody without being too difficult to read. So if you do want to use a photographic element for your entire background, that could be a really cool way to make this more interesting. It's kind of the same thing as having a textured background. So you can think of it that way. It just means that you're going to need to pay attention to what fonts you use to make sure that your fonts show up on top of the picture.